Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome to the stream. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. Dr. Elliott, good to see you first. welcome. So tonight we are going to pick up where we left off last night, and we're basically going to go through some of the issues that we have remaining. We made a little bit more progress off camera as well. So we'll touch on that a bit, and we're just going to kind of go through and tidy up the remaining bugs we have, get rid of some dead code, do a little cleanup, all that kind of good stuff, and kind of see where we wind up, see what we want to tackle in the stream. And I think the only other thing we're going to have to do is verify it on Windows, then do Mac fixes, and then we're done with this refactor for now. So we're getting really close. I'm thinking we're probably going to wind up finishing it tonight. Which is awesome. But before we jump into that, I do want to take just a quick second and thank the supporters of the channel, starting with the partners who are the highest tier of subscription over on YouTube memberships and Patreon. They are Dustin Punt, Gabby Bashir, and Gerboles Inc. I would also like to thank all the other supporters listed here on the screen. They are a combination of the other tiers of support over on Patreon, YouTube memberships, as well as Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated. And I hope it goes without saying that I do appreciate each and every one of you viewers, whether you're joining me live or on the VOD later after. Not what I meant to say, but you guys get the point. So, we do simulcast to YouTube and Twitch, so I do keep an eye on both chats. So this is an interactive stream. If you guys have something to chat about, feel free to jump in and let's have a conversation, right? I like interacting with you guys. It's part of what makes this a lot of fun. So all that out of the way, let's take a brief look at where we are so far. So this is the actual application running here. And as you can see, I actually got the shadow maps working again. So we are all good on that, including with transparency and all that stuff. So yeah, we've done pretty good on that, right? Everything is looking almost back to normal. There is one caveat that I did notice, and it does look like if we get up to the closest cascade here, our filtering isn't working. So we've got PCF filtering that is on optionally, and we can actually adjust that in the console. And so I'm guessing it's probably just not pulling that value, or we're not assigning it the shader or something stupid like that. So we'll investigate that, just to make our shadows look a little bit better with that PCF filtering, right? Because we don't necessarily like that. That's sort of super rigid pixelization going on there, right? But the cascading does work correctly as well. If we switch into that view, we can see our cascades here look exactly like what we might expect, right? Including the fade out. Once we achieve a certain distance away from it, we can see that we've got a smooth sort of fade out of that shadow happening there right before we reach the sort of no shadow zone there. So that is all good to go. Another thing that we have to resolve is whenever we quit the application, we are presented with a seg fault. So we need to figure out what's going on with that, and just kind of go through these things and fix them one by one. Spiro, how's it going? Good to see you. Holy crap, this is awesome. Is this the first time you've actually seen the engine run? Because it has been a while, to be fair. Oh, okay. Yeah. So we're actually missing quite a few things that are being displayed there. So like our debug shapes aren't displaying, which is sort of the box outlines around things that are selected, and stuff like that, like our editor gizmo. So I need to bring those back. And then our UI is completely foobar, so I've got to fix that as well. But it's coming along. We're running now, so it's just a matter of fixing whatever stupid bugs we have left. So don't shoot me, dude. How's it going? Good to see you. Welcome. All right. So You know what? I think I'm actually going to investigate this seg fault first. Let me see if this happens if... Patrick Loss 007, thank you for the follow there. I appreciate that. So let me see if this occurs when we, whether or not we load a scene. So I'm just not going to load a scene, and I'm just going to hit escape. Yeah, so all kinds of stuff is happening there. So let's take a look. Render shader destroy. Okay, what is this bleating about? So we've got exception has occurred aborted. That's not even seg fault, it's just aborted, which means it's probably driver level, if I had to guess. Well, not having a logical device would probably have something to do with that. Okay. It looks like we're getting some validation errors here too. In fact, we got a crap ton of them. So I think a lot of this stuff is just about stuff not being destroyed properly. So we're probably going to have to just kind of tackle those things one by one. The interesting thing, though, is we're trying to destroy a shader, which is part of those things that need to be destroyed, and we're seg faulting on that. So or not seg faulting, we're aborting rather, which is a little bit strange. So let's see what. Let's see. So we have shader destroy, and then we have. So shader system shutdown. I wonder, are we shutting that down? Therein lies the problem. We're doing this in the wrong order. We are shutting down the shader system after we shut down the renderer. So the Vulkan stuff has been disposed of at that point. So I'm actually just going to move this here, build, and run. All right, so that's up and running. Let me escape. Okay, so we still have some other stuff happening here. So that's still been zeroed out. Oh, that was resource system. We actually need to bump this up a couple more lines. I misread that somehow. It should be there. Resource system shutdown. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay. Let's just build again. Hoping that's just like a stupid order of operations thing. Okay, so it didn't abort this time at least. But we did get some validation errors. So let's look at the console log. Okay, so we have stale handle passed while trying to release render texture resources. So what that likely means is that we probably are shutting down the texture system after we shut down the renderer, if I had to guess. Let's see. Nope. Texture system shutdown is first, before the renderer. Okay. So I wonder why that is. Sergeant Pepper, how's it going? Good to see you. I don't have an exclamation point today, actually. That's probably something I should add at some point. But yeah, what we're doing today is we actually do have things up and running. So I can show you that. We've made some decent off-camera progress since yesterday. So our cascading shadow maps are working again. And so we can, look at things as they are meant to be seen. There's a couple issues with it. Our PCF filtering isn't working, but I think that's just not being ingested from our sort of KVAR system. Either that or it's not being fed to the shader. So we've got an issue there. And then, we've got some issues obviously here with our UI. Like we can hover over the button, right? And that works and I can click it, all that kind of crap. But these things don't belong in the upper left, right? If I remember correctly, like this was supposed to be over here. So I've got to figure out what's going on with that as well. And then when I also try to shut down the application, we get some weird stuff. So I get a different set of issues if I have a scene loaded versus not having a scene loaded. So we're just kind of going through these things one by one. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Never seen it running during stream. Yeah, it's been a while. The refactor effort that we had was fairly large. So we're just now getting to the point where we're sort of starting to button that up. We're just fixing all of the miscellaneous issues that we have. Is this a voxel engine? No, it is not. Although voxels are something we are going to explore at some point. I just don't know when. But we'll be building one just sort of as a proof of concept, or to go through how you might actually approach that. And something I would like to do on top of that is have, as an alternate to height map terrain, I'd actually like to implement smooth voxel terrain. So that's a future goal as well. Became obsessed with voxels a little while ago. Made a little Minecraft clone. Yeah, we'll probably wind up doing that as well, just for fun. I think it's a requirement at this point, a rite of passage. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, we could definitely create one of those with this, for sure. At least, once we get past all the foo bars, right? Ruche, thank you for the dance there. Appreciate that. Okay, so why are we getting a seg fault here? Because we have an empty string. Okay, so let's see. This is a texture system release as well. So we are releasing. Okay, we probably ought to put something in there to check that. But why are we doing that? So let's see. We have a PBR material with no name, no radiance texture. We have some maps. I hate when that happens. So let's take a look at the texture. So we have an invalid texture. Texture's already been unloaded. So I guess I'm not quite sure. Let's see what oh, that's why we're on index 4. Okay, let's do this. Let's put this over here and have a look at this actual texture. So this has got an invalid ID already, so I'm thinking that that's probably just not a valid texture. We have 5 maps on this. What is this material? This is it's index 4, right? Yeah. So this has already been unloaded, this texture. So that's kind of interesting that it's already kind of released, right? This is one of the reasons, by the way, I don't like using pointers to textures, right? This is why we're switching to handles, so we don't run into this kind of crashing crap that happens. Okay, so let's go to texture system and our texture system release. Right, and we're just going to put a check in here to say, hey, if not name, then we're just going to boot out. Probably should have had that in there from the beginning, but right, that'll save us that pain, right? Because in order to be releasing a texture by name, we would have had to create a texture by name. So we'll never actually run into a situation, or we shouldn't run into a situation, rather, where this is actually an issue. This just makes me think that however we are releasing this particular texture is, maybe it's a default texture or something along those lines. In which case we don't care anyway. So let's build that. And we'll load up a scene. And as soon as that's loaded, we will exit. Okay, we don't segfault anymore, so that's good. So it looks like most of our problem is with stale handles. In fact, that might be the only problem out of here. Let's see. No, don't worry about that one. Not worried about that one or that. None of those are an issue either. Here we go. Unloading scene. Done. Stale handle pass while trying to release texture, render texture resources. Okay, so let's find where this is. How is that? Here we go. Okay. So I guess let's go ahead and put a breakpoint there, and let's see if we can figure out why this is happening. All right, so I'm going to load. And then quit. So our handle index is 0. I wonder how often that happens. So render texture handle. We have... Okay, I see the problem here. So we have registered textures that were never given any sort of invalid handles by default. So the way that this should work, right, is this is basically zeroed out memory is what we're looking at here. What we should see here is like a handle index of invalid ID, and then unique ID technically should be invalid as well. For an invalid handle. But the fact that we don't have that means that we have zeroed this out somewhere, and then not invalidated the handles. So I'm going to guess. Let's see, we've done that and then not... We probably also didn't remove it from this registered texture list, I'm guessing. Let's see. Cool, the car model looked a bit voxelated. That's because it's like really kind of, it's the shadow maps kind of screwing with you a little bit, I think. Are voxels anywhere near gaming scene currently? Last time I heard them, they were used early 2000s. What a shame, which is a shame for my POV. There's lots of games out there that use them. The coolest game that I've seen that uses voxels is a game called Teardown, where everything in the world is destructible. If you guys haven't seen it, it's super cool. Let me actually... Yeah, so it's this game right here. It's very, very cool. This is the best use of voxels I've ever seen. So basically anything in the world is completely destructible. So if you want to see a good use of voxels, this game is it, for sure. This would be a lot of fun to develop something like this, but yeah, a lot of work as well. Tammin, how's it going? Good to see you. welcome to the stream. Let's see. I am good. I'm good. How are you doing? Don't know if I work on my render tonight or I play Diablo 4 instead. Do both. Why not both? Right? Work on your renderer for a bit, and then as a reward, play Diablo. Make some solid progress, and then go play Diablo. That's what I would say. Let's see. Wouldn't this leak memory? Shouldn't you assert? Are you talking about the release? It should not. But I think what we're doing is we're not properly releasing the texture somewhere, which is why we're hitting that scenario to begin with. And it's why it's not been a problem up until now. Because the texture system has existed now for a couple of years. But the way that things are sort of referencing that has changed. So I think what we're doing is we're disposing of a texture and then not notifying the texture system properly that that's happened. Siggy, hello. How's it going? Night rituals. I mean, I appreciate the kind words. I don't know if I agree with that, but I appreciate it. Thank you. And I will keep it up. I'm just a guy who codes stuff, right? So what's telling me that, by the way, where I'm coming to this conclusion is just looking at this, right? So we're looping through all of our registered textures. And the very first one that we hit has a zeroed out handle, which is not the same as an invalid handle, right? So an invalid handle would have invalid ID assigned here and here. So destroy default textures. I don't think when I did create default textures, I don't think that gets stored in that registered textures array. No, they have their own pointers. So it's not that. So I guess let's take a look at release. And then also, I'm going to set a breakpoint there, but I'm also going to set one here. Because I think auto release is what will actually be zeroing the thing out if we have a reference counter of 0. So destroy texture. Here we are. This is actually the problem right here. Okay, so let's go to let's go here. And so this is happening. We zero out the memory for the texture. Then we set its ID back to an invalid ID, but we don't do this. Right, which gives us an invalid handle. Now, one could argue that maybe release texture resources. Maybe this should do that. Because right now we take a copy of the handle. So I suppose we could do that here. In fact, we probably should. let's do that. Let's actually change that, right? Because we don't want the caller to have to be responsible for this, right? Because essentially what happens here, we release the internal resources in the back end, so all the Vulkan resources, for example. Then we free up the memory for that struct. We set the lookup data within the internal table within the renderer to invalid, but we should probably also invalidate the handle, right? So let's do this, right? And that means we're gonna have to like dereference it here. Right, but then we can also do that, right? And we can actually just set it. So let's see. Right, so this should be a pointer. We didn't actually change this either. So this should actually be handle, and then this is now a pointer to the handle of the render texture whose resources are to be released. Handle is automatically invalidated. Right? So now, when we go to do that, looks like I missed a dereference there. So now when we go to do this, right, whenever we do the render textures resources release, we should pass the address of this guy and modify it directly. The only issue with that is we do this sort of zero memory on it, and we do a string free on it. Do I really want the... I don't think I want the renderer doing that. Maybe we shouldn't be lazy zeroing this out. Maybe we should just do it explicitly. Right, because basically what's going to happen is, you know, we invalidate the handle here, and then I immediately clobber it. I guess we could do... It's not that many things, I guess, right? So we could just do... so we could say name equals... flags equals, let's see, equals 0, right? I guess I can't do that because they're different types, whatever. ID, we already have done that. Type. Width. Height. Array size. MIP levels. Here's another one. Generation, right? Needs to be invalid ID. I think that's the U8 version of that. Right, so that shouldn't be 0. That should be invalid. And channel count should be 0. Right? Because that way, anytime something tries to use this texture, it won't actually get used because its generation is invalid. So that was actually kind of another bug there. So we're going to get rid of that 0 memory. We'll move this up here to happen after the string free. Speaking of which, does this string free? If string. Okay, it does check for nulls. All right, perfect. We have ads. So for those of you who are new to the stream, whenever we have ads on Twitch, which is once every 30 minutes for up to 90 seconds, we pause the stream for ads just so that nobody misses anything. Let's see. Oh, Tammin, you don't know if you're going to have time to do both. That's fair. You were rewatching a movie and didn't see the time fly? Boy, do I get that. Totally get that. It's kind of how I feel about working on this project sometimes, too. Time just flies sometimes. Bertakius, how's it going? Good to see you. You made the switch to Linux, yes. Linux is my primary daily driver. I do have Windows installed as well. I dual boot it. But yeah, I use Arch every day, by the way. I like it quite a lot. I pretty much live in the terminal, so yeah, I like Linux a lot. And I'm cool with Mac OS for that same reason, because I basically live in the terminal there as well. All right, and ads are done. All right, so we have this. So maybe this might actually resolve our issue. Thanks for the answer. Seeing older streams and you use Windows. Yep. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, if you guys have any questions like that, feel free to jump in and ask, right? But yeah, we did. We actually switched back and forth in the original series quite a lot to use, Windows and Linux. I think when I first started the series, I think I was using Ubuntu for Linux instead of Arch. But yeah, I switched to Arch a couple years ago and never looked back. Thank you guys for the follow, by the way. Appreciate that. Nice Vim setup. I appreciate that. First-time chatter also, welcome. I was official. Good to see you. How are you? Hope everything's going well. All right. So let's build this. What did I break? Oh yeah, there is going to be stuff because I changed that resources release. Let's see. So it looks like it's all in texture system though, which is good. Okay. So that's just deprecation warnings. That needs to be the address of. Same thing there. And same thing there. Same thing there. Okay. So let me just double check. So this is some of the job success stuff happening here. So we destroy the old texture. But we do take a copy of the old texture first. Okay, so we should take a copy of the handle. Okay, so this, ooh, that might be a problem. This is a case where we actually don't want the handle to be invalidated. Crap. Okay, well in this case, actually, what we could do is wait a minute. We are going to wind up with a new handle for that though, aren't we? Because we do texture resources acquire here, which is going to give us a new handle. So I guess we don't need the old handle. That should be fine then, in theory. Let's see, what? Render a front end 235, okay. Resources for the default depth buffer, right. So that's just going to be the address of that. Shadow graph render node, that's not too surprising. Okay, so that's going to be that one. All right, see if we busted anything. Random breakpoint I forgot to get rid of. Okay, so this all looks pretty good. All right, so let's shut down and see what we get now. Okay, so we still got some stuff in there. Crap ton of them still. Okay, I guess let's put this back. All right, and handle index of 0. So it looks like we did not cover all of our bases on that. Yeah, we still got that. Okay, so texture system shutdown. Why are we doing it this way as opposed to calling destroy texture? I'm actually thinking like we should be using this, which does call that. And I guess I could say let's cover that case, right? Right, so here, let's just do destroy texture, there it is. And then T. I really don't think that's going to be the answer, but I'm just thinking that I think we're going to need some sort of a check here to like make sure that the texture in this slot hasn't already been destroyed. I think that's actually maybe what's happening. All right, so destroy texture. Okay. So when I'm looping through these, so whatever has destroyed this before, set an invalid ID here, zeroed out all of this stuff, So when we unload the scene, we should be unloading all the textures as well. At least the textures that are loaded by that scene, right? Because the reference counters should be reaching 0, and then they should essentially be doing this. So when we release, load this up, escape. Okay, so the first thing to go is the skybox texture. So let's have a look at that. Process texture reference, right? We're passing a -1 here, which means we should decrement it, right? So we're plus equalizing that, which means our reference count is going to go from 1 to 0. All right, take a copy of the name. If the reference diff is less than 0, that means we're releasing. If we hit 0, and we're auto-releasing, which we are, we're already calling destroy texture. Which is a valid operation the first time around. Let's see, what is the, move this out of the way. ID is 13. Okay, it did invalidate our handle, which is good to see. Okay, so we re-enter that into the hash table and move on. Okay, so let's see what the next thing is that we hit. So the next one is the Sponza texture. So, okay. So we get the reference. Ref handle 23, right? Okay, so let me take a look at this guy. Actually, let me see what is at index 0. So see, that is, oh, that's our font. Interesting. So actually, I'm thinking we've already released this. Probably what I could do to avoid this whole issue. So we are actually releasing the resources. That was what I wanted to verify. Here we can actually just check. K handle is invalid. T render texture handle. Right? So if it is not invalid, right, then we destroy the texture. I think that's what we need to do. All right, so we'll load this up, shut down, kill some breakpoints here. Continue. Okay, so we're still getting warnings about candles, but man, we're still getting a crap ton of them. Why? We shouldn't even be getting to here. Right. This particular one is a problem. Let me take a look at some of the other examples here. Let's say this, let's just take a look at the first, I don't know, 100. See, this one got disposed of right. It's just the first one that doesn't get disposed of right for some reason. Okay. So why is that? We have a unique ID. Image count 3. Ooh, do we have more than one thing actually referenced in handle index 0? That could be. That could be. So I think we said that this was like a font texture or something. Like, it's been released. Wait a minute. That's index 0. Am I losing my shit? This one was disposed of correctly. This has an invalid ID, so why did this not get caught? Handle index 0. What is it? Trying to wrap my head around why this is happening. So if we do this should be, we should probably check both the ID and the handle, I'm thinking. That's much better. That had to have been what it was. Okay. Now, we have a bunch of these errors where we didn't destroy stuff. All kinds of resources, right? We're not letting go of some textures. It looks like mostly textures, actually. And these would be textures that are not loaded through the texture system. So if we look through here, we have like our default depth stencil. We didn't delete that. Our shadow render graph node, shadow map. We didn't remove that. We have a buffer that wasn't destroyed. Do we not have a name of that buffer? We don't have a name for that buffer, so we need to find that and name it. VK semaphore. Yeah, we should probably name those too. I've been that's another thing I've been doing is like trying to remember to tack on debug names to stuff so we have identifiers in the logs like this, so we can see exactly what it is and know where to look. Could it be a false positive? I don't think so, because here's why. Because when you go to shutdown, if all those textures that we were getting errors about, if those weren't truly released, we'd see it here. And this list is very short, right? And actually, most of this list is this shadow map here. It's like most of the list, right? Because this shadow map has multiple layers. It's got 4 layers and 5 views. 1 view for the image as a whole, and then 1 view per layer, which is why it's complaining about that. And then it also has an image per swap chain image as well. So times that by 3, and that's why you have all those. Are you going to host a game jam at some point? I'd love to participate. So maybe. I did try one a couple years ago, but we weren't quite large enough to have a lot of participation. So there's only like a couple of entries, unfortunately. So I would like to host one at some point. Ideally, I'd like to get this to the point where I could like use it for a game jam. But I think doing that now is premature before I've actually built a game with it. So I think we're probably going to build a game first with it, just a small, simple game. And then, yeah, I could see doing a game jam. That would be a lot of fun, actually. And I would probably join in the fun, but not compete, if that makes sense, right? Like I would make something using this, but like not be in the competition, right? But yeah, I could see that being a lot of fun. I would like to try that again. The community's grown a little bit since then, so I figure if we have enough people participating, I think it might be worth doing. Pete's Astrophotography, how's it going? Good to see you. Welcome. Okay, so this is definitely a good sign. This is all the errors that we have left from shutting stuff down. So this is not huge, right? So I'm going to attack the shadow map image first because that is what's giving us the most errors. Node. Right, so we're loading resources here. CM Griffing raiding with a party of 111. How's it going, Chris? Thank you so much for the raid. What were you getting up to on stream? Let me just give a shout out to Chris. If you guys aren't following him, do it for sure. He's a kick-ass dude, and he's very entertaining to watch. Mr. Sir. It was a birthday stream. Today's your birthday? That's awesome, dude. Happy birthday. Lots of ranting, hence the numbers. That's awesome. Well, happy birthday, man. That's awesome. I've not done a birthday stream myself, but I don't know. Maybe this year. We'll see. That's pretty sweet. Good news is we have actually we've been working on a fairly large refactor, and it actually kind of runs now. Like, there's still some problems with it that I have to sort out, but stuff actually runs now. So I can actually like kind of halfway demo what we have running, right? So we're able to like load into a scene, show off a little bit of lighting. Our shadow maps are working. So yeah, we actually have some pretty cool stuff. I can switch, lighting modes. This is the normals for how, the surfaces, surface normals are calculated. This is our cascading shadow maps, so you can see where the zones are for that. And then we have a wireframe view. So we've got all kinds of stuff. And we've been just sort of plugging away at a massive refactor for a render graph and the renderer in general. So yeah, we finally have it up and running again, and now I'm just sort of plugging away at the bugs that arose during the refactor. So let me do a quick and dirty introduction here for those of you who are new. So what we are building here is called the Kohi Game Engine. I'll drop a link in chat. And this is a game engine that is built in C using Vulkan as its initial rendering backend. And I say initial rendering backend because we do have plans for others. It is a cross-platform engine, so it's available on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. So desktop only for now, mobile in the future. We do have plans to support Direct 3D as well as Metal in the future. So we're going to have native support on Mac OS through Metal instead of having to go through a translation layer there. And so the whole thing started off as a YouTube series, like a tutorial type of series, and then we kind of changed formats a few times and landed ultimately on the live stream format. So the whole project is open source. So it is available on GitHub. It is Apache 2.0 license, which basically means if you want to use it either commercially or independently, that's totally fine. All that I ask is that you say that you used it. That's literally it. There will never be any sort of licensing fees or royalties of any kind ever. This will always be 100% free. I designed this project as a sort of a learning resource, an educational resource, the resource that I wish I had when I was actually learning this stuff. And, as a result, we do some experimentation on here with different features. We've tried and failed at some things. And we've tried and had some successes at things, right? And sometimes I'll deliberately go into why things are failures versus successes and things of that nature. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. The website's got a link to the Discord, the YouTube, Twitch, GitHub, Patreon, all that good stuff. And we can see the stream here down at the bottom of the page, and I can wave to myself in perpetuity, right? So yeah, that's kind of the that's what we're working on here. We've been at this for about 3 years, and I say that because I do this part-time. I do have a full-time job, so I just do this on the side. So that's kind of it. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Look at the beautiful rendering. Yeah, that's only going to get better from here, right? Like there's still actually tons of stuff we're missing. You know, like we don't have nice filtering on our shadows, for example, which is actually a bug because we actually do have support in the engine. It's just not showing, right? So we've got this kind of, you know, jagged, pixelated kind of crappy shadows going on. But we're gonna add some filtering to that. And then we've got some issues with our UI that we've got to fix and stuff like that. But do I have a swap chain resizing set up? Yes, I do. I've not tested under the new refactor resizing yet, so let's do that. Womp womp. So that's another bug. So basically part of the refactor that I was working on was we basically overhauled the application layer, the platform layer in terms of windowing and how that's handled to support multi-windowing. And we also overhauled the renderer and we overhauled the render graph all in one massive undertaking, right? So there's just some of this kind of remaining stuff that I've just got to figure out and kind of work my way through the bugs, right? I'm guessing in this case, we're probably just getting bad resize data. So this is what Vulkan errors look like, if you're ever wondering. When Vulkan runs into a validation error, it spits out this mess of stuff. So let's see. In this case, it's saying begin rendering. So the image view, which is 1280, is less than the rendering info area offset X plus the extent, which is 1984. Okay, so what this is saying is our image view is not getting updated with our resize info. And because of that, Vulkan doesn't know what to do with it. So it's just a matter of plugging that resize data in where it needs to be. Before we only kind of supported a single window. And so all of the resources having to go with that were just kind of all over the place. And we had to kind of move a lot of that stuff around too, because we have per window resources that exist as well, that we could technically have multiple of those things now. And so as a result, not everything is hooked up. So we have ads. So one thing that I do is on this stream, I do pause for ads whenever they come up on the Twitch side, simply because I don't want people to miss content, right? Because, you know, if you're programming and trying to explain stuff and there's an ad screen in front of you, that kind of sucks, right? So I like to pause the stream whenever ads come up and I put a timer out. And I'll re-explain that for everybody else that is getting ads now at the end of the ad break. Let's see. So yeah, Chris, I hope all that makes sense. Yeah, it's very typical that it would crash when I go to try it. Yeah, but I'm not surprised at all. You know, given all the work that we've done in this pretty massive refactor, I'm not surprised at all. All right, so we're almost done with ads. We got another 20 seconds left. Almost there. All right, cool. Ads are dead. So as a quick re-explanation for all the folks that are new to the stream, one thing that I do is Twitch runs ads once every 30 minutes for up to 90 seconds, depending on region or locale. So what I always like to do is I pause the stream during those ad runs so that nobody misses any content. Because with a programming stream, you tend to kind of get into the weeds with details and stuff like that. And if you've got a full screen ad and you can't see or hear what's going on, that kind of sucks, right? So I like to just pause the stream. I put a timer up on the screen so you know exactly how long it's going to be before we come back. So if you need to go hydrate or something like that, you've got that info there and you know exactly when we're going to come back. So let me just catch up with chat here. Have you ever written function preconditions and postconditions? Function preconditions and postconditions. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Other than like checking your data on the way in and checking it on the way out to verify it's correct. Is that what you mean? Where I kind of quit my game engine when I was when I got to setting up the asset system and figuring out how to implement a runtime. My pre-make became a mess and I hated it. Maybe I'll return to it one day. Yeah, that's why I don't use any build system, right? I've got my own. And I'm going to be switching to a C-based build system here soon that we're going to develop on stream as well. So, yes, like a horror triple. I'm going to have to Google that because I don't know what that means, to be completely honest with you. And that is one of those things that, like, terminology tends to kind of screw me up a lot. So if I don't know what something is, I'm going to look it up and I'm going to tell you I don't know what it is. Let's see. Formal system with a set of logical rules for reasoning rigorously about the correctness of computer programs. Sorry for the flashbang. Let me actually fix that. There we go. You know what? I'm going to read up on this offline. Because I'm curious as to what this is about. All right. So, I'm not going to worry about resizing now, although now we know that is an issue. What I'm more interested in was what we were fixing before, which was essentially we had some things not being destroyed. So when we load this up, we load a scene, and then we shut the application down. We get a number of these errors, right? And it's just stuff that doesn't get destroyed whenever we shut down, right? So it's looks like mostly our shadow map stuff, and then we've got some other image views in there. And I want to start tagging this stuff with names, right? Because there's some of these resources in here that don't have names. And the ones that do make it really easy to verify or validate exactly where that's coming from. So let's do the RG node shadow map first. So that is going to be this texture right here. Oh, we actually don't need that dead code anymore. Okay, so we acquire the resources here, which is what that is bleating about us not destroying. So we do that during load resources. And I just had a thought. I am willing to bet that we did not put... No, we did release those resources right here. Interesting. So that makes me wonder if that's even being called. So let us put a breakpoint there. Yeah. Why is it getting destroyed already? What? execute. I'm not understanding how we wound up here. So we call the execute callback. Did we screw up our function pointer maybe? I can't see that those have got different signatures though. Okay, you know what? I'm going to clean and rebuild. Okay, something must have been cached. All right, so let's destroy this. Our destroy never gets called. Okay, so we are likely then not destroying our render graph at all. Let me double check one more thing within this, because we do have to configure a function pointer to that. Yep, it's set right there. Okay, so it's not that. So that must be in... Let's see. Render graph initialize. It's right here. So I need to take this and on application shutdown, we do scene unload, clear debug objects. We probably ought to do, is this going to be late enough, I wonder? Let's try putting it here. So I want to do render graph destroy. I don't think that returns anything. I think that's void. Yeah, so let's see. Don't need that either. Okay. Now let's see if it gets called. That could have been the problem the entire time with like half of those resources. Yeah, here we go. All right, so I'm just going to let this rip. Okay, so destroy all nodes. So why did we get a seg fault here? If node destroy, what node are we on? We're on the 9th node. We don't have 9 nodes, I don't think. So our render graph, incidentally, is configured in this file, which is a custom storage format that we actually wrote. It's very similar to JSON, but it's not exactly the same. Again, we did that kind of as an educational exercise, right? But we wrote our own custom storage formats, and we use that for our application configuration, as well as configuration of other stuff, right? And so we can set up a render graph this way, and we have all of our nodes, right? So these are all of our render graph nodes. They can be defined in any order, and they automatically link up based on dependencies between each other. So in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I'll be dipped. We do have 9. Okay. Okay, so what then is this bleating about? Oh, we do have 9, so we shouldn't be... Oh, it's because I'm an idiot. Look at this loop. That's why. That's something that I apparently have not exercised yet. Well, let's see. So this should be I is less than. It's nerd bait, yes. I would agree with that. Does your renderer preserve GPU state across frames, or does it destroy everything past that boundary? It currently does not, but it can. I can't think... Well, one instance I can think of where I would probably want to do that is right now I'm actually regenerating the shadow map on every frame. And I'm probably going to reduce that for performance reasons to go like every 3 or 5 frames or something like that, and just hold on to that state for a few frames and reuse that, so that I'm not generating it every single frame, right? It's a nice little optimization that you can do. So yeah, we do have the ability to, do that kind of stuff however we want. Have I tried running the debugger in NeoVim? I think there is a NeoVim NVim DAP plugin. Yes, and I've used it. The problem that I have with it is it would occasionally just not give me any debug data whatsoever. It would just give me like blank in the UI, which is kind of annoying. So yeah, I tried for a while to get it to work, but it just wasn't really reliable. So unfortunately, I still have to use VS, and it is what it is. It's a family friendly stream, so I try to bleep out VS. But yeah, I still have to use that for my debugger. Why do you need to update shadow maps? So our shadow maps are based on where the camera is in the world, right? So if you have a static scene, right, that you're not really moving around, then yeah, you probably don't need to do that, right? But in the context of a game engine, your shadow map needs to follow you around, or follow the camera around to where it is, right? You've got that cascade of shadow maps. So you've got the high detail that's super close to you, and then a little bit further out you lose some of that detail, but the area it covers is bigger. And then you've got 2 more large pieces of that. So that has to follow you around the scene. And so as you move the camera, that not only needs to follow you, but if you have animated objects in the scene or anything like that, that needs to follow you as well. So, or it needs to be updated because of that, right? So if you've got like a tree swaying, right, your shadow map is going to need to be updated every once in a while to get that sort of animation to show up in the shadow map. Usually the shadow map depends on the sun. So it does depend on the sun, right? So a directional light obviously is, but a directional light doesn't have position. It only has direction. So you're talking about a directional vector that points like that, for example, right? But that's just a direction. It's not a position as well. The position is based off where your camera is. And then we use a combination of, we do a little bit of math basically to generate a perspective or an orthographic or series of orthographic matrices that fit the camera's frustum, right? So that as you're moving around, it's trying to fit the shadow map for an area that the camera can see, and only what the camera can see. So that way you're not, having stuff that's like completely off camera being rendered as well. The only difference to that would be like if the sun is at a very low angle, for example, and behind you, it's still going to work because you have that sort of dynamic frustum that is being used in the calculation. So that's why we have to update it, right? There's multiple things that are being updated, and you have to sort of keep that up to date. Tob's on Twitch. You like the sensor beep there? Yeah. Mr. Cha, how's it going? First time chat as well. Welcome. Is NeoVim for all OSs? Yes, it is. Yep. So I use it. My setup, actually, I use the same config file across Windows, Linux, and Mac. Right. So I've got some stuff in there that's specific to that. But if you're interested, by the way, I do have a command there that's got an article that I wrote up on my website that goes over my entire NeoVim config, which I guess the bot on YouTube isn't working at the moment, so I'm just going to drop the link on YouTube directly. Yeah, so if you check that out, that is a detailed setup of, or detailed article about my NeoVim setup. Okay. All right, so we've built that. All right, so let's quit this. Okay. So I am willing to bet that probably knocked out most of our issues. Whoops. Yeah, our list is a lot shorter. Okay, so there are a number of other objects that we have to destroy. We have our default depth stencil texture. So that's the one that is basically per window. I should probably rename that to be based off the window, actually, because technically we can have one of those per window. So that actually looks like that's the next largest object, right? Because that's another one of those. We have to have a Vulkan image per swap chain image. And since we're triple buffering, that means there's 3. And then we also have the views for those things, which is more than likely what all of these guys are. Okay, so if we get rid of the depth stencil texture, that will resolve a lot more errors as well. So, did I put that on the window destroyed? And it looks like I've already done it here too. So we should be calling this, but I'll bet it's not being called. So on window created, on window destroyed. All right, so let me think about. Let's find where this is actually. It makes sense that the engine would do that. Okay. And then those are the handlers for that. Okay, so in our core engine, this is where we take from our app config and create the windows that are configured. So our app config is over here. Right, and we can see here that we have an array of windows, the first of which is this guy, right? So right now we only have one. But this basically says we want a window at this resolution, that position, here's its name, here's its title text, right? So we loop through, we create that, which means that we need to destroy the window at some point. So I'm actually just going to grab this whole thing. I don't remember, does our D array reserve capacity is 0. Okay, I might actually have a bug there. I think I also have to do darray length set app config Windows. This works a little bit like the vector in C++, where like you can reserve an array or reserve a number of spaces, but you also have to set the length if you do that. So window count, right? Oh, and this is the wrong array actually. This needs to be engine state Windows. Okay, so we need that. So let's take this and here's all the creation of all of our systems, all that stuff. Boot sequence, all that stuff. Engine run, here we go. So here is our main loop, right? So if we go down here, here's where all the shutdown stuff happens. So I am thinking probably, let's see, shut down the game, unregister from events. Before we shut down the systems is probably where we want to actually kill the windows. So let's put a to-do on this, and we're going to say close, destroy. Oops, if I can spell. Any and all active windows, right? Which this should theoretically cover, but right now, this basically only has an initial configuration. We could technically create more windows than just what's in here. So we're probably going to have some sort of window registry. Like whenever we actually open up a window, we're probably going to just say, okay, register with this thing. And then whenever we close that window, we unregister with it and so forth. So we don't want sets. All we want is darray length. Right. So we want U32 window count. Loop through each one of those. We don't care about the config. We're not creating a new window. What we're going to do here is Windows we're going to say the engine Windows sub I, and then we're going to do window destroy. We don't need config for that, we just need the window, and we don't need this boolean either. Actually, this goes bye-bye, because that's a return type of void. Tell the render about the window destruction. On window destroyed. And then I don't think that returns a boolean either. Does not. Okay. So we should destroy each window that way. And then shut down all of our other systems. That hopefully will take all of these unclaimed or all of these resources with it. Why did we get a seg fault here? Just for good measure. Why did you decide to make a game engine? I will answer that as soon as ads are back, or as soon as ads are done. That's a good question, and I will answer that as soon as we get back from ads. So we got about 50 seconds left on ads, and then we'll be back. And I will address the questions in chat as soon as we get back from ads, so that way nobody misses anything. Okay, almost there. All right, cool. So, a couple of questions. The first one is, why did you decide to make a game engine? So I've made lots of game engines, both professionally and personally. And it's just kind of a thing that I've always enjoyed doing. But I taught myself how to do it, essentially. And that has been quite the learning process over the years. And one thing that I never could really find was any resource out there on actually building an engine, right? There's a lot of resources on there to talk about design, that talk about, high overarching concepts, that talk about rendering techniques, things like that. But there's nothing out there that really puts all this stuff together, right? Which was sort of the reason that I wanted to make this series, which is really just a way of making a game engine, right? It's not, because it's educational in nature, it's not always going to be necessarily the right way to do it, right? We do a lot of experimentation on here. Well, let's try this, right? And so sometimes we deliberately do things the wrong way just to see why it doesn't work, right? But the short answer is I made this as a educational resource for anybody who is wanting to get into game engine development specifically, because I think that there are not enough people out there making game engines. There's not enough competition, aside from these behemoth ones that are run by huge corporate entities. And I think we need more of it, right? We need more competition because competition drives innovation. And I'm sort of hoping to sort of inspire more people to get into game engine development with this, right? To show that, yes, you can actually do it, right? Granted, it takes a lot of time. It's a lot of work. But yeah, that's kind of why. I hope that answers that. Thank you for the follow, by the way. Are you using AVX? So not yet. That is actually on the to-do list, is to hit SIMD. So we're going to be hitting that hard. Probably after the first game. And I say that because it's actually not a bottleneck at the moment. So when it becomes a bottleneck, we'll hit it. I saw ECS on the to-do list. Could you give me a very simple rundown of what that will entail? Sorry if you've answered this a bunch already. Yeah, so my plan for ECS for this, so this I should probably preface this with a quick explanation of the overall architecture, just because this will make sense in a minute. So the overall architecture of the engine is kind of a little bit split up, right? So we have this sort of core library that has things like our containers in it, some debug stuff, our math library, our memory, such as our allocators, all that kind of stuff, parsers, platform layers, string library, threads, etc., right? All that kind of core type of stuff. And this is usable by the runtime which is sort of the application, if you will, or the base for the application, right? But it's also used by external utilities, right? So we're going to have a game engine is not really just one application, right? It's several. It's a whole tool chain. And so we're going to have external utilities for things like texture conversion, mesh conversion, all kinds of stuff, right? And so this core library is the base for all of that. It's what provides us with our basic types and all that kind of stuff. So our runtime, as I mentioned, is sort of the base for our application. So the engine is being designed with it in mind that we're going to have lots of different applications that are types of applications that could be written for this. What I mean by that is obviously a game is an example of an application. Another example of an application is going to be the editor, right? That's going to be a separate application that has a completely different set of needs from a game, right? So a runtime combines or provides rather, like an application interface, an application configuration, which is what this is over here on the side. It provides our audio front end, our renderer front end, a resource system, some of our other systems like fonts, geometry, job system, light system, material system, plugins, all that kind of stuff, right? So there's a whole list of things here that provides. And then resources like different loaders for things like meshes and skyboxes, terrains, that kind of thing. And so this is basically what we base our application off of. Everything else aside from that is considered outside the core of the engine and is actually a plugin. So we have sort of got this plugin system where everything outside the core of the engine is a plugin, including the renderer itself. So the renderer backend, the Vulkan backend, is actually a plugin into the engine. And so the application can decide to use the Vulkan plugin or the Direct3D plugin when we make it, or the Metal plugin when we make it, right? And you can have different builds that use different plugins, right? So the renderer is a plugin. The audio system is a plugin. Right now, this is an OpenAL audio plugin. If we wanted to use Fmod or something like that, we could have a separate audio plugin that uses that instead, right? And so that's a different audio backend. And then also we have what we're calling our standard UI system, which is one of two UI systems that we're going to be writing for this. So this is a retained mode UI, and it is also a plugin. The core engine knows nothing about it, right? And the reason we've gone that direction is because, again, different applications have different needs. So your standard library is going to contain like your typical checkboxes, buttons, radio buttons, scroll containers, all that kind of stuff, right? Something an editor might need, but your end game probably doesn't need, but it could use, right? It also contains our debug console that's like a Quake-style drop-down from the top, right? And so you could theoretically set up a game project, for example, to use the standard library in a debug build, but not a release build. So you can get that debug console in a debug build, but not a release build, right? So the plugin system is very flexible that way. And so the reason I bring all of this up is because the ECS is also going to be a plugin. The standard engine itself knows nothing about ECS, nor should it. If you want to use an ECS, it is optional in this engine. It is not required like a lot of all other engines out there. It is a system that sits on top of existing systems and allows you to use ECS if you want to do that, but it's not required, right? So when we develop that, we're going to develop that as a plugin, not as part of the core engine. Long-winded answer. I hope that explains it. So not a how-to, but rather a how-I. It's a little bit of both, right? So it's a little bit of we do talk about some of those grand structures, the sweeping ideas. We make a lot of references to this book, which a lot of you may have heard of, which is Game Engine Architecture by Jason Gregory, right? It's a thick book about game engine architecture. It's at least 2 C's thick, thicker than a bowl of oatmeal, But yeah, we do make a lot of references out of there, and we do talk a lot about general game design and game engine design as well. So yeah, it's kind of a mixture of both of those things, I would say. Can game engines be used for other components in society and interchange that would be useful? Because then external developers would develop. So like the other thing you could use the other thing you could use this engine for would be like if you wanted to create a CAD program or a modeling program, right? Eventually you'll be able to use this for that as well. Is your code prepared to become vectorized? Most of it, yes. We have taken memory alignment into account for most of it as well, which is a huge thing, right? So all of our allocators handle memory alignment as well. Like game engines that produce amazing UI for applications so easily that they were used to develop normal apps too. Yeah, I mean, the thing about that is you have to sort of be careful and say, well, at what point is it overkill, right? Like I would not use a game engine to make like a basic phone app, right? That would probably be overkill to do it that way. When there's better lightweight systems that can do it, right? Game engines are pretty heavy for that. So, I wouldn't necessarily recommend making just a regular desktop application like a word processor or something out of it. I wouldn't recommend doing that. It'd probably be overkill for that, quite honestly. What do you think of Handmade Hero? Is that a good resource? Yeah, it's an excellent resource. Yeah, and I've learned a lot from that. In fact, I put right on the website. Let me just bring this back. I put right on the website, initially inspired by Handmade Hero, right? The difference between that and this is Casey goes into the process of just directly making a game without an engine, right? So all the stuff that we're doing here is sort of built into his game there. So it's just a different approach, right? We're building a little bit more of a general use engine that could be kind of split off and used for multiple things, whereas he's sort of building a one-off code base that is really just the game is the engine. And there's no really right or wrong way to do that, right? It's just different tools for different projects, essentially. But yeah, it's an excellent resource. What do you think about this AI is putting a lot of effort studying, but I'm really afraid of how things are going, like renders will keep existing. So AI is not going to replace programmers anytime soon if that's what you're concerned about. I've never once gotten usable code from an AI, especially like if you try to tell it to write C code. It's full of memory leaks. If it compiles at all, it's full of memory leaks and bugs, and it's just terrible. It's not anywhere near smart enough to replace developers. Sure, it can write boilerplate code for stuff, but anything that's complicated or that has multiple systems interacting with each other, forget it. Like, it's never going to be able to do that. At least not anytime soon. I can't say never, I guess, but not within my lifetime, I don't think. Plugins are really interesting. How does that work on the code level? Is it just the same front end and then you swap them out when you create certain system that has plugins? Yes. Yeah, so we have in the runtime, we have a renderer here, right? And then we have a renderer front end. So this is the interface that the rest of the engine deals with when talking to the renderer. So it's a completely render API or graphics API agnostic, right? And then we have the various renderer backends, which are plugins, right? Which is Vulkan in this case. Our audio system is the same thing, right? So we have audio types there, but then we also have an audio system here. So the audio system is actually just a front end, right? And it requires a plugin to use. The other advantage to this system is you can actually have headless plugins, what they call headless plugins, for things like unit testing or integration testing. And so you can actually have what's called a headless renderer, right? Which doesn't actually render anything. Where if you need to run it on a server, but you just need, say, physics simulation on a networked game, and you just need physics simulation, but you don't actually need to render anything, you could plug in a headless renderer into that and then use that, right? So, yeah. Swap out the back end. Yeah, super interesting. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Jet engine book. Yes, exactly. Yep. Thinking about this plugin implementation, what about performance? From what I understand, many high-performance engines are heavily coupled for X reasons, performance being one. Put it this way. Essentially, the way that our system works is it's a single function pointer to pass through from the front end to the back end. So if it ever gets to the point where that is our performance issue, I will be really surprised, right? If that is what our performance bottleneck is ever, I will be really surprised. But yeah, I can guarantee you that's not going to be the bottleneck like ever. Are your allocations giving away blocks of greater unit size than a cache line? So it depends on what you're doing, right? So the allocator kind of expects that you know what you're doing with it. It doesn't really make any assumptions in terms of cache lines or anything like that. And I'm trying to avoid that, I guess. But yeah, it's not like anything super advanced, right? It's basically there's a couple of different allocators that we have. We have one, essentially an arena allocator, right, that maintains a free list. That's just a linked list internally of free blocks of memory. And we can tag that memory, which will eventually allow me to sort of break up that huge arena into different blocks of memory by type, which means I can keep memory a little bit more contiguous. I haven't done that yet, but I've put the interface in so I can do that in the future. But in terms of like cache line level optimization, I haven't really done that yet. No, it's just alignment basically at this point. So if I need to do that, I assume this is probably another reference to vectorization, right? It wouldn't be a big leap to go from where I am now to taking those things into account. So you can specialize tailor to its game. Or are you trying to be the most generic possible with the plugin system? Yeah, so I'm trying to keep it somewhat generic at this point, right? Eventually, it's probably not going to be as generic. I don't know. We'll see, right? I'm trying to keep it as generic as possible and leave it up to the application as to how things actually work. Code Void, how's it going? Good to see you. So there has to be some pre-existing front end, and then the back end must conform to the back end must conform to the back end implementation. Yes. Yeah, so there's an interface, essentially. I see it as an interface where you can plug something in else. Yeah, so we have this interface, right, which is literally called render a backend interface, which is nothing but a struct with a bunch of function pointers in it, right? And this is what essentially holds all the function pointers where we call out from our front end to our back end, right? And it's just got all of our stuff that has to connect between front and back end, right? That's all it is. It's pretty straightforward. Let's see. Have you tried using a bitmap to mark availability of blocks in the arena instead of a list? I have not yet. I do want to play around with optimizations for that, for sure. But it was one of those things where like I got it working and I kind of just had to move on because I was like, I don't want to spend 2 years writing an allocator or optimizing my allocator, you know? So I kind of just got it working good enough and then I move on. The other thing that I have is I also have a linear allocator. And the linear allocator is what I also refer to as my frame allocator. So all it does is basically move a pointer forward. And you can't free or anything like that, right? And so the advantage of that is there is no linked list. There is no sort of overhead except a pointer that moves forward in a block of memory, right? And so every frame, that pointer gets reset to the beginning, and we could just allocate stuff on there. And it's like lightning fast, right? And so I do use that quite a lot for in-frame dynamic allocations. You could probably scan a bitmap with AVX, probably. Is there a complete series with all the live stream? Yes. So on my YouTube channel, there is a complete series with everything. So if I go here, stop. So if I go, oh my God, stop. My browser's freaking out. All right. So if I go here, I actually need to update this because it doesn't have all of the streams, right? But it's here. Looks like it only goes up to the 194, but if you actually click into the channel, they're all there. So if I go to the channel, and then I go to live, it's all there, right? So every single live stream is there. So yeah, it is all there. It looks like I need to update the playlist though. Free my brain cells. Yeah, I know that feeling, wanting to do that every once in a while. Will you produce a Blu-ray collection for those who want to watch with the family? I mean, this is a family-friendly stream, right? So we don't say things like VS. You know, we keep it family-friendly. Marathon style with the family. Yeah, right? Blu-ray. Oh, God, I can only imagine how long that would actually... Let me see something real quick. Does this actually tell me... Does this actually tell me how long the playlist is? I'm not sure that it does. Yeah, I don't know if it actually... 211 videos. I don't know if it tells me the whole length, though. But yeah, it would be a lot of Blu-rays. Four people pair programming in the session at the end. The dog will write the Vulkan code. Yeah, there you go. If I could teach my dog to write Vulkan code, I absolutely would. And Pigeon Guided Missile, by the way, I still say you have one of the best usernames on Twitch. It's awesome. Cracks me up every time I read it. All right. Let's see. Where were we? So we were debugging, I believe. Prepare Windows surface. Okay, why is this seg faulting? Oh, that would be why. Window internal. So window, oh, that's completely wiped out. So why did that happen? Why has it done that? Let me get rid of this. Why has it done that? Put a breakpoint here. And relaunch. How and why? All I did was add this here. Did I do something stupid? No. Shouldn't even be hitting this yet. Okay, what did I break? Thank you for the follow, by the way. Appreciate that. And try rebuild. How on earth did I break this? So before we even start, before we start up all the systems or anything, after we start up the renderer system, we loop through and we create all the windows. So we loop through the configs, grab the window configs, use those to create the Why am I doing this every time though? This is kind of dumb. Oh, I'll bet this is what broke it. It is what broke it, because then I'm now calling length here. Okay. Where was my head at when I was writing this? This looks like some truly dingus-oriented programming here. This should be... Why is this just not sub-I? Right, like... Should be... that. That's almost definitely what broke it, actually. Yep. Okay. All right, so now we're loading again. Let's try shutting down. Okay, so it looks like we still got a few things that need to be cleaned up. Let's look at the console. Okay, that is definitely a shorter list. We did not kill the... Oh, that's because I disabled the shutdown code. Let's see, it was under engine run. Here it is. Okay, here we go. There's the destroy. All right. I'm gonna let that rip. Seg fault. Why have you done that? Ooh, wait a minute. Oh, because we... Also, why are we destroying more than one? Like, that's the issue there. Destroying window, not registered with the platform layer. Did I do something stupid in the loop? Nope. Oh, we have ads. Oh, I think I see the problem. I'm not going to fix it until we come back, but... no, that's actually not the issue. Oh, actually, I think I do see the issue. Okay. Historically correct name. Yep. Thank God for radar invention. Yeah, 100%. Interesting dev environment. I just split my screen with a text editor and a terminal, manually drag the window sizes. This is just NeoVim or some extra things going on. Yeah, so I'm using NeoVim here. So my I have NeoVim set up to whenever I do like a build debug, which is for me space BD or space BR for build release. It kicks off. It opens up a new split, like a horizontal split, and then opens a terminal in that, executes a shell script, and then that's how I get the build to show up. So let's see, we're back. Okay. Total length of playlist: 16 days, 8 hours, 22 minutes, and 46 seconds. Yeah, that's up there, and that's missing. I think it's stopped at like 194, so it's missing a good 20 episodes. Almost 30 episodes, actually. So yeah, it's actually a lot longer than that. It's probably a couple more days on there, actually. Okay, so I think this platform window destroy should be done last, not first. All right, so let's try that. All right, and close. Okay, so why is this seg faulting? Okay, so we have state. Do we not? Oh, you know what? This is probably... Oh, it's crap data. Okay, so where did that come from? On window destroyed. Okay, so the window renderer states... Renderer state is... How is the renderer state already destroyed? That shouldn't have happened until this call. Yeah, this is basically zeroed out. Did I not build this before I thought I did. Let me do a clean rebuild again. Okay, built successfully. Okay, didn't have any errors there. All right, so we'll load up a scene. Shut down. Unable to get internal data for depth buffer images. Underlying resources may not be properly destroyed. okay. That's kind of strange. And then destroying Vulkan swap chain and surface for window null. And we're doing that before we shut down the renderer. I wonder if we need to do that earlier than all of this. I don't think so, though. Let's see, where is here's the renderer system shutdown right there. So that's where Vulkan gets shut down. So here we should be good. Let me check, let me check this window count. And also I suspect there's some problems with our destruction here within the platform layer as well. Let's do platform window destroy. Destroying window. Did we get that? Destroying window, that's somehow not registered. Oh, right, because we put a break here instead of a return. Okay, so that error shouldn't have been happening. Which is probably also why this was seg faulting at one point. Dusper, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. All right. Okay, so that looks good. Let's shut this down. That's still gonna poop itself. So this is coming from window. What index is this? 1. How do we have a window count of 2? That's the problem. Okay. So some sort of bananery is going on with all right, so we reserve window count, which should be 1, right? We set the length there. We loop through window count. Oh, we're using DRA push. That's why. Why did we... Wait, why did we do it that way? All right, if we're using push, then we don't need to reserve. I mean, I suppose I could just... it doesn't really matter. This doesn't need to be super fast. It's just during startup. Only happens once. Now I understand this previous line, because I'm getting the last one off the stack that was actually, or out of the array that was being pushed there. Okay, so that actually does make sense. Let's try that. All right, and we will shut down. Okay. No more seg faulting. Yay. Brutal17. Thank you for the follow. Let's see. Swister2, thank you for the follow as well. So let's take a look at our console log. All right. We've seriously cut down the number of errors. We only have these things left to do. So, default depth stencil texture. Really, I would have thought that was included. I got rid of everything except, looks like the texture, and I'm guessing, I don't know what sampler that is. That might be in one of our render graph passes, I'm thinking, or render graph nodes. Let me think. Default depth stencil. Why did that not? So we destroyed the texture, but not its views. Okay. That's going to be in Vulkan image. When we destroy, here we go. Simon Notes, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Welcome. So let's see. We destroy the view. If we have layer views, we loop through those and destroy those as well. These are the ones that I thought we were missing. Okay, so the layer views. Wait a minute, our default. That was our default depth stencil texture. View 0, so it's not layered views that we're worried about here. It's because we have multiple images within one texture. So let me think about this. So I probably need to look in texture resources release, image counts. We destroy all the images. That should cover it. I'm not quite understanding why it's not. Window destroyed. Okay, so here's all of our sync objects being destroyed. Per swap chain image resources. Okay, so that's the command buffers being destroyed. The depth buffer images and views. So the internal data. Why are we doing it this way? Oh. Destroy each backing image. So we loop through and destroy each one of these images and then destroy texture data images. So Vulkan image destroy should be getting the views. I'm not understanding why it's not. Texture data. That is the default depth buffer. Wait a minute, maybe it isn't. on window created, here is the, let's change the formatted name here. So when we have the window created, we should already have a name for the window. Yeah, we do. So let's do window, and then we'll do depth stencil texture, right? And then we'll do window name here. So at least we can see that that's where it's coming from and not like somewhere else stupid. Actually, in theory, that should still come up even if I don't load a scene. Window main window, depth stencil texture. Okay. So when we do the image creation, let's see, do we create the views along with that create view? Yes, we do create the views. All right, so if create view, it's right here. View IDX. So it's texture name view IDX 0. Why did we hard code that 0? It's a fantastic question, actually. Let's do, instead of that, because this is really a global view for the whole image, right? So this way we'll be able to tell the difference between whether this view is for a layer of the image or whether it's the global one we're talking about. Kuju with a raid of 34 viewers. Thank you so much for the raid. How's it going, Kuju? Vulkan, yes. We're deep into Vulkan things here. What'd you get up to on stream, Kuju? We give a quick shout out to Kuju. If you guys aren't following Kuju, I highly recommend that you do. He's got a pretty awesome looking project going on over there. How's your stream going? It's going pretty well. We actually have stuff running. It's actually the shutdown that we're trying to debug right now. So if I do this, I actually finally have like the engine up and running again after the huge refactor we've been working on. And so, you know, it's kind of coming along nicely. We've got a few bugs to work out. All of our UI elements are like jammed in the upper left and our text isn't showing. And then our PCF shadow map filtering is not working, so it's all pixely and jagged. But you know, our cascades seem to be working as expected, which is good. And so yeah, that's kind of where we're at. The classic scene, exactly. Yep, with an extra car. Yeah, so the extra car is just like this thing has like 4K textures on it, and I just wanted something that was kind of you know, separate from just the Sponza scene that I could move around. It's just a crappy model I found on the internet, to be completely honest. I won't wind up using it for anything, but it's a good lighting test, right, for shadow casts and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of what that's there for. Got distracted from my actual plan today, and I made explosive barrels which launch you up when they blow up. That's pretty freaking sweet. That's a good distraction, I would say. That's about like Jitspo getting distracted by making in his game, making books interact with everything. So like you can throw books at stuff in his game and it interacts with a whole bunch of stuff. Steven, how's it going? Yeah, it is a pretty cool idea. I might chat with him and like put that with his permission as an Easter egg in one of my games, because it's pretty hilarious. You can throw books at doors to open them up and stuff, and you can throw books at enemies' heads and like decapitate them and all kinds of stuff. It's pretty funny. By the way, how are you handling your shadow map ortho matrix? Yeah, yeah. So that was a complicated thing, right? So we have technically we have 4, right? Because we have cascades, right? So we have one of those per cascade. And basically what we do is I take my view matrix and I shorten its length a little bit, right? So I have a value in my application config that I can say how far out do I want the shadow maps to extend. And so I take the view frustum, shorten it to that amount in terms of depth, and then I fit the ortho matrix from the perspective of the directional light. I fit that around that view matrix, or the view frustum rather, and I do that for each cascade, right? And so that's essentially how we manage that. And then at the very end, I have the 4 cascades. So if we have, let me go here by this tree so you can really see it, right? So the red one is the closest one, followed by green, followed by yellow, followed by blue, followed by yellow. And then we also have this white zone out here, which doesn't receive shadows at all. And I put a little bit of a gradient on that so that when you actually exceed the limits of it, it fades out instead of sharply cuts off, right? So I could probably adjust that to make it look a little bit better, but yeah, that's basically how we're doing it, more or less. I struggled with that probably for a few videos. How are you making it so the pixels don't jitter when you move your camera? I have not done that yet. So they do. But, see, they do jitter. But I do have PCF filtering, which is not working right now, and I think because it's just not getting fed the on switch value, basically. And that helps with that a lot. And I'm also going to do I'm going to do a little research around percentage close shadowing, just to see how that works with it as well. And I'm going to try a few different filtering techniques to see if I can minimize the jitteriness as much as possible. Imagine a mage, but instead of launching spells, he launched the book containing the spell, and the book launches the spell upon arrival. That's actually kind of badass. I actually really like that idea a lot, because there's like so many things you could do with that, like pun wise, like throwing the book at somebody. That's fantastic. That was the most painful part for you. Yeah. You're not totally content with your current shadow technique. Yeah, I'm going to play around with some different techniques for sure, because I hate the jitteriness, but it just hasn't driven me nuts enough yet to worry about it. You'd just be a dude carrying tons of books. I mean, I feel like you'd have to have like a probably what you would have is you would have a book that would act as your inventory, right? And then you would just like open the book and like it would spawn a book that you then throw. Something like that. Yeah. All right, so let me shut this down. That's a redneckish view on how magic is considered to be working. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of ways we could make that very ponderful, right? All right. So as much as I hate to do it, I do have to get up for work in the morning early. unfortunately. So I think I'm probably going to actually have to end. And I know you guys just rated. What I will do, though, before I do that, for all of the raters, is I'll give just a quick intro as to what we're doing here, because I probably should explain that. Sorry about that. So what we're looking at is the Kohi game engine that I've developed using C and Vulkan. So it's programmed from scratch, built from the ground up. We started off as a YouTube tutorial series and changed formats a couple of times throughout the series just to kind of see what worked, what didn't work, and then ultimately landed on the live stream format. So the entire engine is written in C, and it's using Vulkan as our initial rendering backend. And I say initial rendering backend because we do have plans to support Direct3D and Metal as well. It is cross-platform compatible, so it's available on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, with mobile planned for the near future. It is completely open source, so I'll drop a link to the main website here. And if you go here, you can find the GitHub link, Discord, YouTube, Twitch, Patreon, all that good stuff. But here's the engine itself. It is completely free and open source, so it's Apache 2.0 licensed, which means that you can use the code either independently or commercially. And all I ask is that if you use it, you just say you used it, and that's literally it. There will never be any sort of royalties or licensing fees or any of that kind of stuff. It'll never be paywalled. It'll always be 100% free. We're doing this as an educational exercise to go over a way of building a game engine. Might not necessarily always be the right way to build it, but we are exploring different things along the way as we build this, right? So we try different techniques, see what works, see what doesn't. It's basically the resource that I wish that I had when I was learning how to do this stuff. So I hope that that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, that's basically what we're doing here. So lately we have been under a massive refactor effort, and we only actually got the engine running on the last stream again. And on this stream, we're just basically tying up bugs and stuff. So we had a whole page or pages and pages of validation errors, and now we're down to 4. So we're pretty far along. There's a few bugs like resize that I have to work out. There's some things with the UI system I've got to work out. And then once I've finished all of those bugs, I need to test it on Windows. I'm running on Linux right now. And then I also have some work to do on the Mac platform. So probably what I'll do is when I go to tackle the Mac platform, I will actually stream from the Mac itself. We'll try that, see how it works. I've not done that yet. Usually that's my streaming machine that I just sort of pipe my desktop into to use it for streaming, but we'll try it, see how it works. But yeah, that's more or less where we're at. Let's see. I might actually have a look at that. I want to make a NURBS-based physics engine. Ooh, even rendering. That would be pretty cool. Might find some useful info, purely personally. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so that's the idea, right? I'm hoping that people take this and kind of run with it and come up with their own ideas and add to it. And you can always, if you have something that's really awesome, like a plugin or something that you eventually write, I do accept contributions, right? So there have been folks here that have contributed various aspects. Jad here is the one that actually created the very first iteration of the Mac OS platform layer. So I do accept those on occasion if it makes sense, right? So with all of that said, I do unfortunately have to end the stream tonight. So I do have to get up and work in the morning, but I really appreciate you guys being here and hanging out with me. And I would ask if you guys like what I'm doing here, the best way and easiest way you can support me is to just toss me a follow, whether it's here on Twitch or over here on YouTube. Crap, ads. I didn't bat it away soon enough. All right. One more ad break, and then we'll finish. Ultra and Gabriel, I will answer your question as soon as we come back. I just don't want other folks to potentially miss the answer. So we've got about 50 seconds left on ads. Almost done with ads. About 30 seconds left. If you'll just bear with me. What's hilarious, Kuju, is I was actually thinking of rating you. You just beat me to the punch. All right. All right, so ads are done. So just quickly address a question here in chat that just popped up. I'm starting to programming with 31 years old. Should I quit? Absolutely not. Don't quit. I have seen people start in this industry in their 50s and be successful. It's not necessarily about it's not about age. It's about what you're willing to put into it, right? If you're willing to study and keep at it and just write a lot of code and practice, you could be successful for sure. It's never too late to get started as far as I'm concerned. I've seen people in their 50s start. I know one guy that didn't start writing his first line of code until he was 70 years old. He wound up actually doing some pretty cool stuff. So I worked with him a couple jobs ago, and he was a pretty cool dude. And he kind of did it as sort of a post-retirement thing, and then he was like, "Hey, I could make money doing this," and he went back to work because he was bored. So yeah, it's never too late to start. Doing it for a living might be hard when starting this late, but for personal knowledge, there's absolutely no reason not to. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, maybe you might have a slight disadvantage there, but like, again, if you're willing to fight the good fight, therethere's no reason to back out. 31 is absolutely not too old for it. Definitely not. You could get into it and have 30 years of a career out of it, right? So I hope that answers that for you. All right, so with that, I just wanted to say, if you guys would, the easiest way to support me, I think I got cut off by ads, is to follow me here on Twitch or over on YouTube. I would greatly appreciate it if you would. And I'm going to look for somebody to raid. Let's see. I'm looking for something that's relatively related to what we do here, if I can find it. Okay. Let's do... I'm going to raid a new person that I haven't raided before. Because I try to share the love, right? So, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. What was that I just saw? Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Actually, I'm going to raid somebody that I have raided before. Because I think it's an awesome project, and I think there's a lot of people in this audience that'll appreciate it. I didn't realize that he was on, or they were on. We are going to raid El's Dragoon, because they are building a game on native NES hardware using 6502 assembly. And I think this is an awesome project. And so I'm not always able to catch them on because usually they're ended by now, but yeah, that's who we're going to raid tonight. So thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next stream. See ya.